Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The sun was setting over Willow Creek, a small village nestled between green hills and ancient forests. The orange rays made the slate roofs sparkle and illuminated the fields where the villagers brought in their cattle. Every breath of wind carried with it the fresh scent of earth and wildflowers, and every alleyway seemed to tell a story forgotten by time. Evelyn Parker, a 26-year-old woman, walked confidently between the market stalls, her brown hair slightly tousled by the wind, a basket filled with vegetables and fresh eggs under her arm. Since her father's death, she had helped her mother run the family farm. Her life was simple, but it was rich in a freedom that many would envy: the sound of birdsong at dawn, the scent of warm bread, and the satisfaction of working the land. Despite her simplicity, Evelyn radiated an inner light that attracted attention without her ever seeking it. Thousands of miles away, in a gleaming New York City skyscraper, Jonathan Harper, billionaire CEO of the Harper Industries empire, gazed distractedly at the city from his picture window. He had everything: money, power, influence, but he felt empty. The high society parties, colossal contracts, and forced applause never filled that void. He sometimes dreamed of something truer, more human, but didn't know how to find it. Fate, however, has its own plans. To escape a media storm and unbearable stress, Jonathan decided to flee the city for a few days, without revealing his identity. His journey took him to Willow Creek, a village he never imagined he would visit. As the rain began to fall, making the paths muddy and unpredictable, he sought refuge in the village's only inn. That's when Evelyn appeared. Soaked by the rain, she handed him a warm towel, her brown eyes shining with genuine concern. There was a gentleness in her smile Jonathan had never seen in the faces he usually encountered. In that simple gesture, something inside him shattered: the billionaire's shell, the mask of the powerful man, and he felt, for the first time in a long time, a thrill of pure emotion. Evelyn, for her part, felt a strange fascination for this mysterious man. His upright posture and confident voice betrayed a world entirely different from her own. She didn't yet know that behind that piercing gaze hid the famous Jonathan Harper. But deep down, she sensed that this encounter would turn her life upside down, as if destiny had just written a new chapter, invisible but irresistible. And so, under the patter of rain and the golden light of the inn, two completely opposite worlds were about to meet, and an unexpected love story was about to begin, ready to defy all the rules of society, wealth and destiny. Rain poured down on the roof of the inn, creating a steady yet soothing sound. Evelyn Parker was wiping down a wet counter when a loud knock at the door startled her. A tall man in a wet coat and dark hair matted by the rain entered. His piercing blue eyes stared at her for a moment, almost too intently. He seemed both irritated and tired. Evelyn, despite being used to serving all sorts of travelers, felt a chill run down her spine. "Good evening, do you need, what?" she asked, handing him a napkin. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her nervousness. "Thank you. I need a place to dry off and warm up," the man replied, stepping forward. His voice was deep, confident, yet strangely soft. Evelyn placed the napkin on the counter and made him a hot chocolate. The man looked around the room, a small smile crossing his tense face. "Do you have a place I could sit for a while?" he finally asked, as if seeking a break from his hectic life. "Sure, sit down over there," Evelyn replied, pointing to a small table by the window. "Be careful, the floor is slippery." The man sat down, rubbed his wet hands together, and sighed deeply. Evelyn approached with the chocolate. "Here," she said, placing the cup in front of him. "This should warm you up." He looked at her, and for the first time in years, Jonathan Harper felt his heart relax a little. There was something about that simple gesture, that frank look, that completely disarmed him. "Thank you, really. You are different from the others," he said hesitantly. Evelyn smiled, embarrassed. "Different how?" "Simple, sincere, true," he replied. His eyes never left hers. A comfortable silence fell, broken only by the sound of rain. Evelyn felt her heart beat faster, as if drawn to something she didn't yet understand. Jonathan, for his part, realized he'd never wanted to know anyone the way he wanted to know her. The storm lasted a few more hours, but inside that modest inn, something invisible and fragile had just been born. Two completely different lives had just crossed paths, and neither of them suspected that this encounter would change their destinies forever. Over the next few days, Jonathan found excuses to stay in Willow Creek longer than planned. Every morning, he sat down in the small cafe at the inn where Evelyn worked, and each day, he discovered something new about her. Evelyn, for her part, was beginning to notice the regular presence of this mysterious man. He never spoke about himself, but asked questions about the village, the inhabitants, the seasons, and especially about her. "You really like this village, don't you?" Jonathan asked one morning, playing with his coffee cup. "Yes. I like simplicity," Evelyn replied with a dreamy smile. "Here, everything is natural, real. Don't you think?" "It's different from what I know," he admitted. "But I'm beginning to understand what you like here. Life seems more honest." Evelyn felt her heart clench. There was a sincerity in his voice she couldn't ignore, and in his eyes, a curiosity that wasn't superficial. One afternoon, while they were walking near the village lake, Jonathan dared a more personal question. "Evelyn, what makes you happy?" She looked at him, surprised by the depth of his question. After a moment of silence, she replied. "The little things. The animals, the earth, the smiles of the people I love, and simple moments like this, where you can just walk and talk without worrying about anything else." Jonathan smiled, almost incredulously. How long had it been since he'd heard someone speak like that, without calculation or interest? As the days passed, their bond grew. Jonathan began to share anecdotes from his youth, memories he had never confided to anyone, and Evelyn listened, fascinated. He was no longer just a powerful and mysterious man, but a human being capable of emotion and vulnerability. For Evelyn, this closeness was new and unsettling. She found herself waiting for his visits, waiting for his words, dreaming of conversations that sometimes lasted for hours. She knew something powerful was growing between them, but she didn't yet know how far that bond could go, or what complications their future might hold. And Jonathan, for his part, was beginning to feel for the first time in a long time a desire to stay, to get closer, to really know someone, without artifice, without masks, without money or power to influence his feelings. Curiosity had become an invisible thread, and each of them felt that it could take them further than they had imagined. The autumn sun bathed Willow Creek in a soft, golden light. Leaves were turning red and slowly falling from the trees, creating a colorful carpet on the dirt paths. Jonathan and Evelyn strolled along the lake, where the water reflected the clouds and surrounding hills. "Evelyn," Jonathan murmured, "you never talk about your dreams, about what you really want to do with your life." She shrugged, a shy smile playing on her lips. "My dreams? Well, I want something simple but meaningful. Helping others, creating an animal shelter, growing organic vegetables, nothing spectacular. But for me, that would be it." Jonathan looked at her, impressed by the purity and sincerity of her words. "You know," he said softly, "I've spent my life chasing power and money. And yet, I've never felt the peace you describe, the feeling that life has real meaning." Evelyn looked away, a little intimidated by the vulnerability of this man she was beginning to like. "But you have everything many envy, Jonathan. Why not be happy?" she asked curiously. "Because it's all superficial," he replied with a sigh. "Money and power don't fill the emptiness you feel when you have no one to share the little moments with, no one to see life as it really is." A silence followed, soft and charged with emotion. Evelyn felt her heart clench. She wanted to say something, but the words seemed to fail her. Jonathan broke the silence by reaching out his hand, hesitant but sincere. "Evelyn, thank you for talking to me like you do. For the first time, I feel like someone is really seeing me." Their fingers touched briefly, and the simple contact brought an unexpected warmth. Evelyn looked away, her heart pounding. She knew she was falling, and Jonathan seemed to feel the same way. Jonathan, you know, she said softly, I've never met anyone like you, someone who really listens. He smiled, a mixture of admiration and gentleness in his eyes. And me, Evelyn. I've never met anyone who makes me feel alive like this. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the whole world disappeared. Just them, their emotions, and the soft light of the lake. The first barrier between their worlds, that of power and simplicity, was beginning to crack. That day, Evelyn and Jonathan discovered something rare: trust, sincerity, and the beginnings of a love that promised to be as deep as it was hard to ignore. A few days later, Jonathan received an urgent call on his phone. He apologized to Evelyn and left the inn, claiming he had to deal with an administrative matter. Evelyn, intrigued, didn't ask too many questions, thinking he must have some important personal business. But this outing had unexpected consequences. While he was talking on the phone in the village, a local resident recognized Jonathan and whispered his name to a few curious onlookers. You won't believe it, it's not possible, it's Jonathan Harper, the billionaire from New York. News traveled quickly. Evelyn heard someone mention the name, Jonathan Harper, and felt her heart sink. Everything she thought she knew about him, the simple, mysterious, and sincere man, was now obscured by fame and fortune. When Jonathan returned to the inn, Evelyn sat silently, a mixture of confusion and anger in her eyes. Evelyn. I can explain, he began softly. Explain what? She asked, her voice trembling. You're not who I thought you were. You're a billionaire. You played with me? Jonathan shook his head in despair. No. I never hid my identity from you to manipulate you. I just wanted you to know me first and foremost for who I really am, not for what I have. Evelyn looked away, tears welling in her eyes. She felt betrayed, even though deep down she knew Jonathan hadn't done anything wrong. But the gap between their worlds had suddenly become wider than ever. How could I trust you now? She asked, her voice breaking. Jonathan sat down across from her, taking a deep breath. Evelyn. I know it seems like a big deal, that our worlds are different. But my feelings for you are real. I respect you, I admire you, and I want nothing more than your trust. She remained silent, unable to respond immediately. The space between them was filled with tension, confusion, and the subtle pain of social and emotional distance. The village, so peaceful a few days earlier, now seemed vast and intimidating. This revelation marked a turning point in their relationship. Their feelings were sincere, but the truth about Jonathan had just posed the first serious obstacle to their romance. Evelyn now had to decide if she could love a man whose life and world were so different from her own. And Jonathan had to prove that his heart was worth more than his fortune. Jonathan's departure was silent. The morning of his departure, Evelyn was waiting for him at the inn, her hands clenched on her apron, her heart heavy. Jonathan placed his suitcase on the counter and looked at her intensely. I have to go back to New York, he said softly. But I don't want this to end between us. Evelyn looked down, unable to meet his gaze. How can I believe what we have is real? She whispered. Your worlds are too different. What if I'm just a hobby for you? Jonathan approached, placed a light hand on hers, but didn't force the contact. Evelyn. I love you. Not your village, not your simple life, but you. Only you. And I will do anything to make sure you know it. Despite his words, the pain of separation was too great. Evelyn felt betrayed by her own emotions. She knew she loved him, but fear and doubt prevented her from accepting it. In the days that followed, she continued her life in the village, but everything reminded her of Jonathan. The cafe where they had shared their first hot chocolate, the path to the lake where they had talked about their dreams, even the wind seemed to whisper his name. Each memory was a bittersweet mixture of happiness and frustration. Jonathan, in New York, felt a similar emptiness. His meetings and business affairs no longer held any flavor. Every smile he received seemed hollow compared to Evelyn's sincerity. He was beginning to understand that love wasn't a game of power or fortune, it was a fragile but vital bond he was willing to protect. For several weeks, they communicated through texts and calls, but the distance amplified each doubt. Evelyn feared he would tire of her or be swept away by her world of luxury. Jonathan, for his part, feared that social barriers and the differences in their lives would break this budding bond. One night, sitting by the fire in the empty little inn, Evelyn whispered to herself, "I don't know if I can, if I should, but I can't stop thinking about him." And thousands of miles away, Jonathan, alone in his Manhattan apartment, looked at the photo of the lake where they had walked together. "I can't let her go. Never." Distance may have separated their bodies, but their hearts remained tightly bound, ready to withstand whatever trials lay ahead. A few weeks after returning to New York, Jonathan could no longer bear the distance. Every day, he thought of Evelyn, of her laughter, the gentleness in her eyes, and that honesty that touched him more deeply than anything else in his life. He knew he had to return to Willow Creek, but this time to show her that he wasn't just a visiting billionaire, that he was ready to do anything for her. One morning, Jonathan arrived at the inn, his hair slightly damp from the light rain and his heart pounding. Evelyn, surprised, saw him enter, his shopping bag in hand. "Jonathan, you're back?" she whispered, a mixture of surprise and suspicion in her voice. "Yes," he replied softly. "I had to come back. I couldn't stay away from you any longer. And this time, I want you to know that I'm here for you, not for anything else." He took a small package from his pocket and handed it to Evelyn. Curious, she opened it and discovered a box containing a delicate silver pendant, shaped like a leaf, symbolizing the lake where they had walked together. "Is it for me?" she asked, touched. "Yes," Jonathan said, looking into her eyes. "Every time you wear it, you'll know I'm thinking of you. That my feelings are sincere." Tears welled up in Evelyn's eyes. She couldn't deny the emotion bubbling inside her. For the first time since her wealth was revealed, she felt Jonathan was choosing her for herself, not for her image or status. "Jonathan. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't need to say anything," he replied softly. "I just want to be here with you and show you that love can be stronger than anything that separates us." They looked at each other for a long time, and for the first time, the outside world, social differences, and fear of judgment seemed to disappear. Evelyn felt her heart open completely. She wanted to believe that this love could survive, and that Jonathan was ready to cross all barriers for her. That day marked a turning point. Their fragile but sincere bond was strengthening. Simple, genuine gestures began to create a solid foundation for their relationship, and Evelyn began to consider the idea that love could truly transcend differences in status, wealth, and world. Jonathan, for his part, realized that the greatest investment of his life would never be financial, but emotional. And for Evelyn, every smile, every gesture, and every word from Jonathan sparked a hope she had never dared to imagine. True love existed, and he had chosen her. The crisp air of Willow Creek was thick with a new tension. Since Jonathan had revealed his wealth and status to Evelyn, the villagers' attitudes had changed. Some were curious, others jealous, and a few whispered criticism. But what weighed most was the opinion of Jonathan's relatives, who now came to verify this unlikely liaison. One afternoon, while Evelyn was helping tidy the inn's shop, a black car pulled up in front of the establishment. Two elegant men in suits got out and entered, their gazes scrutinizing and authoritative. Jonathan, surprised, immediately recognized them as associates of his company and influential members of his family. Evelyn, their friends, he tried to reassure, although he himself felt under pressure. The men stared at Evelyn with a mixture of contempt and suspicion. "Mr. Harper, we need to discuss your relationship here," one of them said sharply. "You are a man of influence, and your choices compromise your image." Evelyn felt anger rising, but also a deep humiliation. She had never sought to interfere in Jonathan's world, and now her worth was being judged on rumors and her status as a villager. "I don't understand," she murmured. "I've never wanted anything other than for him to be happy. And I love him for who he is, not for his wealth." Jonathan took her hand discreetly, a reassuring but determined gesture. "Evelyn, ignore them. How I feel about you is more important than their opinions. I won't let anyone decide our love. But the outside pressure continued. Local newspapers had already begun speculating about their relationship, and some locals were asking prying questions, making Evelyn increasingly uncomfortable. Every smile, every word, now seemed scrutinized and judged. I don't know if I can handle all this, she said one evening, confiding in Jonathan. Life here was peaceful, and now everything seems complicated. Jonathan squeezed his hand tightly. Evelyn, you're the only thing that matters to me. If we stick together, we can overcome anything else. The criticism, the rumors, they're just shadows. Despite his reassuring words, Evelyn felt doubt lingering. Their love was real, but could it survive the intrusion of the outside world, the judgments, and the differences in social status that seemed to want to tear them apart? This ordeal marked a turning point. Their relationship, until then sweet and budding, was now being tested by outside forces. But Jonathan and Evelyn began to understand that if their love was to last, they would need courage, confidence, and determination to face a world that seemed intent on dividing them. The following weeks were trying for Jonathan and Evelyn. The curious stares of locals, prying questions, and silent criticism weighed on Evelyn, while Jonathan had to juggle his financial empire with protecting their relationship. Each day seemed to bring its share of tension and difficult decisions. One evening, in his New York City office, Jonathan made a decision that would change everything. He knew that as long as he remained immersed in his world of high finance, Evelyn would never feel completely safe by his side. Meetings, contracts, and pressure from her family were all obstacles to their happiness. It's time to choose what really matters, he whispered quietly, looking at the photo of Evelyn on his desk. The next day, Jonathan publicly announced that he would be stepping back from some of his empire's businesses and handing over management of his most exposed companies to his trusted associates. He explained that he wanted to spend more time at Willow Creek, in a simpler setting and closer to those he loved. This decision provoked a wave of reactions in the business world: astonishment, incomprehension, and even harsh criticism. When he returned to Willow Creek, Evelyn was waiting for him at the inn. She had heard about this bold gesture and felt a mixture of admiration and emotion. "Jonathan," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "You really did this for us?" "For you, for us," he replied, gently squeezing her hand. "All I want is to be by your side, far from anything that could separate us." Evelyn felt her heart melt. For the first time, she understood that her love for Jonathan was not based on his wealth or status, but on the person he truly was, a man capable of sacrifice, sincerity, and deep commitment. I don't know what to say," she whispered, unable to find the words. "There's nothing to say," he replied with a tender smile. "Just believe in us." This sacrifice marked a turning point in their relationship. Evelyn began to envision a future with Jonathan, a future where the obstacles of the outside world were dwarfed by the power of their love. Jonathan, for his part, realized that the greatest investment of his life was not financial, but emotional, to protect, love, and build a future with Evelyn. Their bond, previously fragile in the face of judgment and social differences, was strengthening. For the first time, they felt certain that their love could not only survive, but thrive. The following spring, Willow Creek was reborn with vibrant flowers and birdsong. Jonathan and Evelyn now worked side by side every day, transforming the small family farm into a vibrant and thriving haven. Their love, strengthened by past trials, became the foundation of every project and every action. Jonathan had invested in the farm to make it sustainable and self-sufficient: orchards, organic vegetable gardens, small farm animals, and a shelter for stray animals. Evelyn, with her passion and expertise, oversaw every detail, guiding Jonathan with patience and gentleness. "Look," she said one morning, pointing to the field of wildflowers they had planted together. "Every plant has its place, just like us, every step counts." Jonathan smiled, admiring her ability to transform simplicity into beauty. "You're right. And I'm beginning to understand that true luxury is this: time spent together, building something real and lasting." Their bond extended far beyond work. Evenings were spent talking about their dreams, dreaming together of a future where nature, peace, and love would be at the center of everything. Jonathan discovered the simple joy of small things, picking fruit, feeding the animals, or simply sitting by the lake and listening to Evelyn tell stories of the village. Evelyn, for her part, found herself laughing more than she had in a long time. Jonathan wasn't just a billionaire, he had become her partner, her friend, and her true love. Every gesture from him, every sweet word, every attention strengthened this precious bond. You know, Jonathan, I think we really are capable of creating something beautiful together, she said one evening as she watched the sunset from the farmhouse veranda. I never doubted it for a moment, he replied, putting an arm around her shoulders. Together, we can overcome anything. Their shared dream was no longer just the farm or the retreat. It was a symbol of their love, something simple yet solid, built on trust, patience, and shared passion. Willow Creek was no longer just the setting for their meeting, it had become a witness to their commitment, their union, and their budding happiness. Every day, they discovered that love could be a long-term project, fueled by perseverance and mutual respect. And, little by little, their life at Willow Creek became a living example that true happiness resided neither in money nor in power, but in hearts that chose to beat together. The sun shone high in the Willow Creek sky, illuminating the field of wildflowers where Jonathan and Evelyn had spent so many precious moments. The air was fragrant with flowers, and the light breeze made the petals dance around them. Jonathan held Evelyn's hand, his heart pounding, knowing that every second of this day would be etched in their memories forever. Evelyn, he began, his voice shaky but determined. Since the first day I met you, my life has changed. Everything I thought I knew about happiness, love, and the true value of life, you taught me everything. Evelyn felt her eyes fill with tears, her throat tighten. She had dreamed of this moment, but she never imagined it would be so perfect and sincere. Jonathan knelt on the grass, holding a small velvet box. When he opened it, Evelyn saw a delicate ring, glistening in the sunlight. Evelyn Parker, will you marry me? Will you build our life together, here with me, in this world we created? Will you be my partner, my friend, my love forever? Tears streamed freely down Evelyn's cheeks. She felt a mixture of joy, relief, and pure love wash over her. She nodded, unable to speak, but her smile said it all. Yes, yes, Jonathan, she finally whispered. Yes, I want to. Jonathan slipped the ring onto her finger and stood up, kissing her tenderly. Around them, the field seemed to burst with color and light, as if nature itself were celebrating their union. The birds sang, the wind danced with the petals, and the entire village, which had witnessed their budding love, seemed to share their happiness. That day marked the beginning of a new chapter. Jonathan and Evelyn had overcome the difference in their worlds, outside judgments, distance, and doubts. Their love, forged in sincerity, trust, and sacrifice, was now solid and indestructible. They had proven that love could transcend all barriers, that it could transform lives and create simple but immense happiness. Hand in hand, amidst the flowers and under the Willow Creek sky, Jonathan and Evelyn looked to the future with hope, ready to face all of life's storms together, for their hearts now beat as one.